quiet on the set. Welcome aboard, all you ground troops spinning around smartly on the planet. You have the Allied Command today. We're doing ET Talk TV with some great people, very well known in the extraterrestrial community, in the UFO community, and the UAP community, which is all sort of subjugated into their own little special interest groups besides out of body, near death. And I'm all of that, believe it or not, so I'm sort of a unicorn, so to speak. But I'm not here to talk about me. I'm here to talk about what we're going to do about all this stuff that we're claiming. And you'll see the Allied Command behind me. A lot of people don't know about that, but there's one on the planet and there's one off planet. Janet Carol Lessin is with Aquarian Media from Hawaii. She has been doing a great job for many, many years with events in Hawaii and with her husband, which is Alexander Philip Lessin, doctor, which I've known for many, many years. And Stephen Bassett, let me take just a minute because he's a lot more, I guess you'd say, earthbound. Tonight on Disclosure Now, we welcome back Stephen Bassett, one of the central political voices in the modern disclosure movement. For 3 decades, he's had pressed Washington to end the I get it. Okay. He pressed Washington to end the truth embargo and formally acknowledged that a non-human presence has been engaging humanity. Now he returns at a moment when pressure appears to be building from every direction, Congress demanding answers, Hollywood amplifying the message, whistleblowers continuing to surface, and experiencers seeing their testimony taken more serious than ever before. So tonight, our focus with Janet Carol Lessin of Aquarian Media, and of course all of you out there, thank you for tuning in all these years wherever you find us. We're going to focus on Steve, and he's going to give us a reading of his assessment of what's real and what is theater, and he just came out of a meeting, and he's located somewhere secretly in Washington, D.C.
No secrets. No secrets.
Oh, no secrets. I wanted to discuss Men in Black. You're sitting there as a man in black, are you not? Well, go ahead.
It's not that.
You're not that. Damn it.
Basically the Steve Jobs things I've had for some time, but no, it's just the location is fantastic. I'm only 2 blocks from the White House. The press building is a fantastic building. The press club is upstairs. I belong to the club. So and I was just up with a gathering that meets there, a very high level group of individuals. So it's very, very cool, very nice. But nevertheless, we are in difficult times right now.
Well, do they know you do shows like this up there where you go meet with the press?
Well, I mean, I've held 8 or 9 press conferences in this building. I've attended dozens more. So it's a in other words, I just seeded the press building with the ET issue. Right?
Oh,
I'm pretty sure I'm the only ET activist journalist, there's no journalists on this. So I'm just kind of here, just trying to put it out there, slip it in, and but the fact is, get right to the point, is that we have never been closer to disclosure than now, without question. And I'm saying that now very matter-of-factly. I've been very, very optimistic overall for years about this. I felt we were making progress from time to time. I've tried to keep a positive perspective on it because this was not going to be easy. We're 30 years in, just since I got involved. And I think the real modern era of the activism starts really around 1993, and I get in 3 years later. And we're practically there. At the same time, we're at a moment politically in the United States and also internationally that's extremely unstable, concerning, and that just happens to be happening at the same time. It didn't have to be that way. There's no reason that everything we are seeing happening overseas and everything that's happening in the United States politically had to correspond with the end of the truth embargo. It just worked out that way. So it's making the end more difficult and messier. All right. But nevertheless, and this is the most important thing to point out, is that in spite of all that has happened in the last, uh, basically since 17, which is now almost 9 years, 9 years, all that has happened, and a lot has happened, has not stopped the end game that started back in 17. It's been moving forward consistently every year, and even now, in the middle of all this, there are members of Congress and other things taking place which are extremely indicative of the truth embargo nearing an end, and it tells you something. That tells you that there are people on the Hill, and there are journalists and others who understand that these other issues that we're dealing with, war, uh, upheaval, and what have you, and political upheaval in the United States, are not bigger than this issue. This issue transcends them. And so it continues to move forward. And I would not be surprised if we got disclosure tomorrow from the President of the United States, at the very same time that that president is involved in some very, very dangerous uh, issues and activities. And our government is essentially in a almost state of war. But that doesn't mean that the presidents of each presidents can't be confirmed by a head of state. They are independent, though ultimately the disclosure of it will affect, I think, the actions of government, and may improve our prospects of avoiding some of the more calamitous outcomes that we speculate about. Even the rise of AI, which is potentially a very dangerous thing, could be positively impacted by disclosure. So that's what's happening now. I can barely keep up with it. I can't watch enough podcasts, look at enough articles online, and everything else that's coming out. You just can't keep up with it. So it's like it's almost moving forward on its own. But as you know, there is a whole range of people and journalists and witnesses coming forward, and also generally all the people that have been in the field, the researchers and what have you, all kind of moving forward together, as we finally approach the end of this era, the era of the truth embargo, which has now been in place formally since 1947.
What do you think about what Gates said recently, that he was briefed, the Army briefed him on hybrid breeding programs?
Who said
Did
that?
you hear about that one?
Who said that?
Former Representative Matt Gates said.
Oh, Gates. Yes, yes.
Gates. He said that he was briefed on the hybrid breeding programs.
What can I say? That's one of countless numbers of statements coming out from people in Congress. And the fact that some of these people are controversial, I get it. I understand. Does that mean that we should not take what they're saying seriously? No, because a statement like that is outside of politics. Whatever Gates went through, both as a representative and since then, this is outside of that. And so,
Right.
what would possibly be the motivation for former Representative Gates to say something like that? Why? To get attention, like he doesn't get enough attention? No, there is no upside to it other than the fact it's probably true. And so there you have it. So now the matter of the hybrid program has come out of the mouth of a former member of Congress, which means that hell, maybe a couple of days from now, a sitting member of Congress will come out and say, "Oh yeah, I've been briefed about that hybrid program." So when I say that the truth embargo is barely hanging on by a thread, I mean it. It is barely hanging on. And it's something that's going to break out. It's something that's going to happen. Of course, ultimately, it has to be the president.
Well, what's the latest news? I have a list of like 11 items. Like there's the Gates thing. Let's see. Congress gave the Pentagon until April 14th to hand over the 45 classified UAP videos.
All right, let's stop there. Let's just stop right there.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
You've got Annapolina Luna has now made several statements and confirming that they're going after those videos. All right, and that's been covered. Remember, I track the news. Almost every one of the points you're going to make is being covered worldwide by the news. And so, again, they're going for the videos. They're going for the documents. So let's say they get them. Well, if they get them and show them, what do you think the Truth Embargo boys are going to do that? I mean, so at some point, somebody has got to go to the president and say, look, you need to be ahead of this, right? You don't want all these things to be happening and like you don't know what's going on and be forced to make a statement. You want to get ahead of it. You already have access to any of these members of Congress, the information they're putting out. I'm sure people around you have been following it. We know that your family is very much interested in it. Laura Trump is interested in it. His son is interested in it. And so you don't have to follow here. You could step right out in front of this and say, look, I'm saying I know everything that's going on, but it's clear that what we have been told about this presence of non-human presence is true. And this technology is true. And obviously, you're going to want to know more about that. And you will learn that my job is to at least confirm to you that it is true so we can now really get this information out. Since with the moment I, as president, confirm it, I am letting everyone in the government know that the process now is going to be a small d disclosure process, that the legislation that's already in place, plus other legislation likely to be passed soon, is going to provide the basis for you to bring this out. And everything will become known to the American people. And so it's up to the president to make that decision. But clearly, things like Annapolina Luna saying, yeah, we're going to get those videos, right? So the president want to wait for those videos to be shown. Lord knows what they could show. And let me also mention that all of this is a very positive, profound, and forward-looking development. There are other developments in play right now, also involving videos and documents and so forth, that are not forward-looking, not positive, extremely negative, very disruptive. And that is not going to change. And so all I can say is, whatever difficulties the current president is facing, there is something very profound that the president can address as well that will serve him well. Recently on the internet, again, this is the internet, somebody using one of the AI softwares, which again, I'm just slowly getting into AI. I need to get into it deeper, but I know that it's unbelievable. So right. They created a disclosure coin for the president, essentially. Really good quality, right? Fantastic quality. They show the back and the front, and they put it out there along with a kind of a story that this has been created because the president is going to make an announcement pretty soon. Now, is the coin real? No, it's AI generated. Is it still cool? Absolutely. Because it's this gorgeous coin with the president on it, and it's about disclosure. We are not alone. It's got all this stuff. You can probably find it easily if you do a Google search on images.
I've made a few myself, but that's fine. And other people are cashing in on the AI. Now, you can do that. We have ways to go ahead and make the coins.
Well, I'm not talking about making them at this point. I'm just saying that the image of it was created, and this looks great. And that image portrays the president as a disclosure president, right? And that's,
we should have a coin about it.
Okay.
Right.
So that is out there. All right. Again, if you want to go back 10 years, 15 years, whatever, nothing like this was happening back then. We were in a whole nother place. It's like gushing forward now. And only the very difficult political situation underway and the foreign situation underway is preventing it from just exploding completely into the public world, public domain, and probably leading to disclosure. And then you've got the situation with McCaslin, which I'm pretty sure is on your list. Yes, Janet, absolutely.
Oh, I have to look.
AI. She
Jen,
didn't do it alphabetically.
So yeah, I've got Burchett. I want to talk about that. Let me see. I'll scroll while you're talking about McCaslin. I'll see. I made this long page here.
Well, you can tell us. Well,
yeah, sure.
Well, tell us about McCaslin. Yeah. Oh, that's the one. He's got. He's disappeared, right?
That's right. So, in the age of the internet, where anything interesting turns up, 50 or 40 years ago, uh, major papers and the three networks might have said, it's not that interesting, and it isn't there. It's just not there. Maybe you see it in a tabloid over at the supermarket, right? One of those dumb tabloids from those ages. Now, that is not the case now. If something turns up that's interesting, that has some substance, it's going to get you. It's going to get engaged. It's going to be out there. The internet is going to grab it and they're going to run with it, and at high level, sophisticated ways. Whether it's podcasts, interviews, AI generated imagery, or whatever. And so McCaslin is another example of that. Okay, so why is it important? Well, to make it very simple and short, General McCaslin was involved in the highest levels of the military involvement in high tech. A number of bases, he ran a number of programs, major stuff that is pretty well, I think, well established that some of that was involved with ET technology. So fine. There are a number of people like that. But what's special about him? And what's special about him is something that happened all the way back in 2016, but then was kind of forgotten. As you know, the election was underway. We're moving towards the election in November of 2016. But in early that year, Tom DeLonge, who was
TCSA.
He was in the process of putting together what eventually was called the To the Stars Academy of Arts and Sciences, the early stages of that, I believe. He introduced this general to Podesta behind the scenes
CIA
of the connection of the general to the ET issue. Now, this was all private, okay?
Oh, is it? I had no idea since we've all read it, but okay, it was private.
It was private. It was not a public thing.
Oh,
and
okay.
so what I believe that Tom DeLonge was doing was he was engaging the Clinton campaign team, which is primarily Podesta, who's, I think, the chairman of the campaign. He was providing behind the scenes information from someone at the level of McCaslin, right, who was retired at that point, but only about 3 years, because it was clear that Hillary Clinton was going to probably disclose the ET presence because of the connection between her and her husband and Podesta going all the way back to the issue in 1990, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And so, and of course, hundreds of articles have been written about her connection to the issue. And I will take responsibility for at least 50% of those articles because I worked pretty hard to get the media to cover it, right? And so all that was happening while she was running for president. She ended up talking about it. Podesta ended up talking about it. It was fully in play, and that the public knew. But what the public did not know is that, in fact, there was behind-the-scenes contact between Tom DeLonge. This is before, again, people had any idea that something like the To the Stars Academy of Arts and Sciences were coming out, and, of course, John Podesta, who was running her campaign. Well, what happened is that as we were approaching on the election day, about 2 weeks ahead of that, a whole bunch of files taken from Podesta's hard drives, hacked by probably the GRU, right? And there was Russia, were then handed over to WikiLeaks, and then they were put out publicly in tranches of 5,000 at a time, because I don't know how many there were, 20, 30,000, something like that. In the last couple weeks of that campaign, making a very big splash. Now, some of those documents were not particularly how would you say, positive politically. So there were some things politically in there that might have upset voters that were thinking about voting for Secretary Clinton. Fine. However, a bunch of them were about UFOs because there had been plenty of correspondence between people and Podesta about UFOs, which shouldn't shock you because of all the articles that were written. And so that came out. And if you go to those files are available. You can now go Google, I guess you could say the WikiLeaks files for the Hillary Clinton election, whatever, you can find it. And once you find it, you simply put in search terms like UFO, UAP, McCaslin, Tom DeLonge, and those emails will come up and you can read the emails. But what came out at that time was, I think, including a photo, I think there was an image which showed that, in fact, Tom DeLonge had connected McCaslin with Podesta ahead of her election. She lost the election. All that fades away until the Truth the Stars Academy comes out in October of the following year, almost a full year after the files were released. But then everything moves forward. People kind of forgot about it. But when he disappears, and that becomes a major story, people started focusing on it and got reminded of that McCaslin had been introduced to Podesta specifically regarding UFOs, which makes sense because, again, he commanded facilities and programs that there's reasonable basis to believe we're dealing with ET technology. So that is now a big deal. And guess what? These articles are being covered worldwide. Worldwide. I've got dozens and dozens of them already in files, but I can't. It's going to take me days to get them up on the internet on my website, the Print Media Archive at paradigmresearchgroup.org. But anything like this that turns up is now covered worldwide, right? And just whoop. And so if you're trying to hang on to the truth embargo, and now articles are appearing all over the place, talking about McCaslin, talking about the things he ran, his connection to possibly the ET, technology, engineering, and then the Podesta connection and all of that stuff. The idea that you can keep just saying, "Oh, there's nothing here, nothing to look at," it's ridiculous.
Right.
But the truth embargo is being shredded, and that's just two examples
I just wanted to tell everybody he disappeared from his Albuquerque home on February 27th of 2026. He was on his foot. They issued a silver alert. They haven't found him. So there's no update on that, right? That's the latest information. He's still missing.
I've been busy today. I haven't seen anything. I didn't even look at X, and maybe very early this morning. He's been gone for some time. He left without his phone. And
his wallet, too.
Maybe his wallet, okay. I also saw a statement that he did take his gun. Now, I did not have time to confirm that, all right? And that's very important, extremely important. So if, in fact, he did take his gun, and that's been confirmed, that is highly significant because it narrows down the possible scenarios substantially. Number one, meaning he's decided to take his life, and he's simply going to go somewhere and away from everything, not to upset his wife or what have you, and do that. Though the search has been extremely extensive, and so it's kind of hard to imagine how he could have pulled it off and his remains would not be found. The other scenario is he had to go meet somebody, and he decided to take a gun because he thought there might be a problem. All right. Now, again, this is totally unimportant if, in fact, he did not take his gun. And so, again, I have to caution you. I have not confirmed that. But that would fit into the idea that he may have met somebody and been taken, right? Never just taken.
Yeah, he apparently didn't need his ID.
Yeah, but why leave the wallet behind? It may be that he was contacted and told, you have to come to this meeting. You have to come. We have to meet you out in the wilderness somewhere, and he had to move very quickly. Didn't have much time. Forgot. Don't know. But the upshot is that the connection between McCaslin And this issue, through his extraordinary commands that he had as a general, is now out, and it's going to expand and expand and expand. And don't be surprised if other witnesses don't come forward, new ones we haven't seen before, who come forward and say, oh yeah, I worked under McCaslin at such and such a program, at such and such a base. And that's just another example of how the truth embargo is getting shredded.
Yeah, are you familiar with what Tim Burchett said, a Republican from Tennessee? He's a member of the House UAP subcommittee. He said that he's been briefed by just about every alphabet agency there is. And I will tell you this, if they were to release what I've seen, you would stay up. You'd be up at night worrying about or thinking about this stuff. We just need to disclose it all. I'm sick of it. And he
Uh-huh.
ended. He said, "I'm not suicidal, by the way. I don't take risks."
That's
Because,
interesting. That's interesting. He said that. So Burchett has been the most outspoken member of Congress on this period. He came out before the hearing
yeah,
on News Nation and Fox, I think, maybe Newsmax, whatever. He's a very conservative member of Congress, so there's no question about that. So he's out on the right, the more conservative media, but he's also done other media, but he just doesn't hold back. And so from the beginning, he was saying that there is this presence. Now, as we move into the hearings and so forth, because he was on the subcommittee, and on the House Oversight Committee subcommittee, he was part of the hearings, and so he was getting some briefings. He was seeing documents, and so that just reinforced what he had already been talking about. And so he has been one of the bulldogs that just will not let this go. Now, recently, he upped the ante a little bit by making the point that what he is seeing could be very upsetting. Now, that's his opinion.
right.
And I don't think the congressman, who I like, he's a pretty good guy. I actually met him once. I don't think that he has the full knowledge of the total history of this issue to be able to how would you say, decide what would be incredibly upsetting or not be upsetting. But however, clearly it's pretty interesting and provocative. And so he talks about that. And then he mentions, I'm not suicidal. Now, this is a standard thing that people do if they think that maybe something might happen. Elizondo said something like this. And that's a little concerning. Now, it could be over the top, right? Meaning
I'll give you the whole quote. He said, "Unfortunately, it just keeps getting covered up, and the people that know are dying or disappearing, as the case may be. And for the record, I'm not suicidal, and I don't take risks."
okay, that makes a little more sense. I can
Yeah.
see how you put those together.
And
He's
then
not.
let me read this one thing, and then I'll have the whole picture. I was briefed 2 weeks ago, and it would have set the earth on. This country would have come unglued, I think, if they had heard all that I heard. They would demand answers. So that's the full quote.
Okay, I think he's right about they would demand answers. He's wrong about the country would come unglued. I think that is his view and his opinion. I get it, but I don't think he has enough understanding about the engagement issue by the general public and what it's known and seen for 70 years. So I'm going to disagree with him on that. And the
Right.
way you couch that means that when he said, I'm not suicidal, in that frame of mind, that's cool. In other words, that doesn't mean that he's been getting threats and he needs to say that, but rather he's just kind of throwing that in. Now, let's get back to McCaslin. One of the things that the McCaslin story that's evolving has done is that it has brought attention, it probably to a level we've not ever seen before, to the issue of people being silenced on this issue. Now, it's always been there, and I've always acknowledged that it's probably true, but in general, it's been, I believe, over, how would you say, exaggerated. In
Right.
other words, people tend to think, "Oh my God, they're killing lots and lots of people." I think it's happened, but the numbers are probably not much, and
Right.
most of that would have been many years ago. All right. However, we are now near the end of the truth embargo. It's showtime. This is going to come out. There's a lot of people inside that are not going to be happy about that. They're going to have to deal with extremely difficult questions. They may have concerns about their legal status and so forth. And so it's possible that one group or another is deciding to go there again. But without question, it is now focused, the media, on this particular point. Has the government silenced and murdered or murdered people that are very much in this issue and capable of bringing information out? And that's a new thing in a sense. It's been brought up over the years by this researcher and that researcher, but overall, the mainstream media has no interest in it. They consider it not particularly important. Now, all of a sudden, they're looking at it and we're getting it talked about in articles. Fine. Let me restate that I've said many times. I fully favor amnesty by law on this issue. I favor truth and reconciliation under law on this issue. In other words, we have much more important things to do than rooting out everyone that did something bad and making sure they pay a price for it. I think that's not constructive. Some will disagree, but there's a good basis for it. So if it's true,
well, on that, I didn't mean to go down that negative rabbit hole, because I like bring it on. I think that disclosure is going to give us a new paradigm. We might get some cures for diseases and all this stuff that's been repressed for years and years. I'm more like Star Trek, and we're gonna go. You know, I'm the cheerleader, right? And Theresa, where are you? Where do you stand?
Let me read you about McCaslin, because I was asking AI if he was involved with Dick Cheney, as I was. So here we go. McCaslin was a senior position because he held classified aerospace defense programs. Okay. He actually was the commander of Air Force Research Laboratory at Wright-Patterson.
right?
Now, if you're in the UFO community, that is like a stronghold of information.
Check.
So, directory, he was earlier in the director of special programs in the office of the Undersecretary of Defense and Acquisition Technology and Logistics. He ran AFRL at Wright-Patterson, held special program roles, and is now being pulled into UAP conversations. We're going to say UFO too, because a lot of the old people, they don't know what you're talking about, UAP. So we'll explain that, folks, to you in a minute. So there is a real angle, but there's documented mainstream reporting that the Wright-Patterson long been associated in public lore UFO stories, quote, that McCaslin briefly had an association with Tom DeLonge to the stars after retirement. Now, McCaslin's wife published, she was pushed back on the stronger UFO claims, saying it's, now what does she mean? She was pushed back on the stronger UFO claims, saying her brief UFO community connection is not a reason. His brief communication was not a reason to assume the abduction, and that he did not have special knowledge about Roswell debris or the bodies of Wright-Patterson. So, I don't know. It says she doesn't necessarily know that he had special knowledge about the Roswell debris, because that brings in the 47 crash at Roswell with Jesse Marcel and the bodies that Wright-Patterson found, which we know Colonel Corso admitted seeing one of the bodies, at least one of the bodies. So this says Luis Elizondo, folks, who's, I don't know if you're pro or con, but when you talk about where Steve sits now with the Pentagon UAP figures, he reported explicitly, said he preferred not to speculate whether the disappearance had anything to do with legacy involvement. But rumor speculates that he knew the darkest secrets, UAP secrets. I was in and out of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Now, anything about abductions, disappearance, they'll usually totally deny. And so there's no established law enforcement evidence other than a Dick Cheney angle. But
what's the Dick Cheney angle on this one?
Well,
you work with
I'd rather not say at this point. Their podcast, YouTube, and UFO media allegations have Cheney involved in legacy program secrecy. Does anybody, that's like legacy news. You want to explain that, Steve, on ecosystems of why they don't let them talk in legacy? Because legacy programs secrecy. How would you say that?
Look, legacy is a term that's I just think it's kind of just a descriptive term. And I don't know where it came from. I doubt it's formal. I don't think that's like formalized on documents or so forth. But it's a term that now comes to refer to the previous and past programs dealing directly with this issue under deep classification and so forth. So it's not particularly a helpful term. Let's narrow it down a little bit and make it a little more straightforward. Look, I believe McCaslin. I believe that McCaslin was definitely connected to this issue. He's dealt with it. He had the classifications. He was working on programs at very high level, as at the top. Really, he was running these programs. And I believe that because the Clinton campaign was moving clearly in a direction. Remember, their connection goes all the way back to the Rockefeller Initiative. That was 93 to 96. And so 10 years later, it's 2016, and she's on her way to become president. Apparently a shoe-in, right? Can't miss. And so that an effort was made to bring McCaslin into the picture behind the scenes because he had extraordinary information that he could provide. And he agreed to do it. Okay, fine. But that wasn't supposed to come out. If WikiLeaks doesn't get those documents out, no one would have known about that. She would have won the presidency, and then you might have seen that group coming forward that came forward in October coming out much sooner. Others could have come forward like that group early in her administration. I know this, that if she had won the election, because of hundreds of articles that had been written about her and the UFO issue and the interviews she gave during her campaign, the media would have been all over from day one, meaning, okay, you're the president-elect. What are you going to do about this? What are you going to do about that? And so I was extremely optimistic at that point. I was literally planning my post-disclosure life, okay? And so, but it got out, all right? It wasn't given that much attention because there was so much else going on. She loses the election. I'm sure he steps back, right? He's kind of exposed. In other words, if the WikiLeaks had not come out, documents had been dropped, he could have then just stepped back. Nobody would have known about it, and whatever, right? But that's not what happened. So she loses. Now it's totally up in the air. He steps back and stays back for whatever. I mean, think about it. You have all these people coming forward to the Stars Academy, key people being obviously Gary Nolan and Lou Elizondo and Christopher Mellon, as well as those other high-level doctors and so forth that have been working in intel projects. They come forward. He doesn't. As you move forward, you've got all kinds of things happening. We don't see McCaslin anywhere. I would speculate he never even presented himself to any members of Congress for briefings. He just stayed out of it. And then all of a sudden, this thing is getting closer and closer to breaking, right? And then this man disappears.
He didn't need his glasses. Why would he not take his ID and glasses? So whoever, if he was, why did he just disappear? And they're bound to be looking for a place to bury a body, which is really easy out in the desert. Or did someone take him, or a higher intelligence? I suggest that someone politically needed his expertise, and I don't think he was. I don't know how they got a phone call to him, but how did they get him to be outside without his glasses?
Well, again, depending on the scenario, we have many scenarios. I'm simply saying that here's what we know. He clearly was a major player in dealing with the ET issue. That he came out briefly and then had to step back because the election went the other way. The issue then explodes over the next 7 years. And so as we get closer to disclosure, McCaslin is somebody that clearly would have eventually come forward, right, and be able to talk about stuff that goes well beyond what David Grush could talk about, or Elizondo, or anybody else. I mean, he's literally at the top of the top. And so it was only a matter of time before Congress got around to him, and then he suddenly disappears. Now, in terms of burying bodies, look, they're extremely good at this stuff. They have cadavers. They can.
Who are they? Who are they?
No, I'm talking about the police and the
Okay,
FBI
sheriff.
have the ability to have cadaver dogs. They have ground penetrating radar. They can see if stuff has been disturbed. So the complete and total disappearance thing, that is unusual, and it implies that he was essentially taken.
And
Right?
and at noon, wasn't it? Did anybody look up the time? His wife was at a eye appointment. Wasn't it during broad daylight during the day?
Don't know.
Anybody?
Don't know.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think it
probably,
was.
probably because I think it would have been very much more notable if it had been at night, and I don't hear that. But let's assume it was daytime.
Okay.
So here's what we know: he goes out and he's gone. All right, no trace, nothing so far. And they've, this is not like just another disappearance. This happened.
Ooh,
Okay?
10 a.m. It was early. 10 a.m. His wife was at a medical appointment at 11:10. So the sheriff's county where he lived, if you know the sheriffs, they've got some due diligence in here. It says BSCO, verified timeline. I guess that's whatever that Belillo or however you say it, county sheriff. Sorry, folks. I'd have to look it up. I can't see it that fast. But the county did know what time she left, and she volunteered that. So he was gone.
Again, this is one thing that's happened. It's non-trivial, right? At one level, it's simply a missing husband, and it's not good. It's terrible for the wife, but it is extraordinary. One, people of that level of apparently he was fit. He's had an extraordinary career. He's an important person, and he just disappears in an unusual way. Walks out, so forth. Not typical. All right, and so at this point, the logical conclusion is that he was simply taken, he met or was encountered by people who took him. Now, that doesn't mean he's dead, not at all. But beyond that, it's all speculation. But what the point that I was making earlier is that, speculation aside, this case, because it's McCaslin, has really focused a lot of media on the ET issue and the truth embargo and the idea that there were advanced programs dealing with ET tech, and so forth. And it's getting additional attention, and that just puts more pressure on the truth embargo. Let's hope that he is in fact still alive, and that at some point he will reemerge. That they didn't want him. There were some individuals that did not want him to have to be talk about this or be approached or talk to media yet. Don't know. Let's hope that is the case. But it is one of many, many things that we've talked about, and I'm sure Janice got more on her list. It is attention in media on this thing, relentless media, and I'm talking about the articles. I'm not even talking about the podcasts.
Yeah.
The podcasts are relentless as well, and this is. The truth embargo never had to deal with anything like this up until just the last 7 or 8 years, and so it cannot stand. It cannot hold. It is going to collapse, and of course, the collapse will come in the form of confirmation from the president. So that's where we are, and I'm not going to apologize. I think for being this matter of fact about it. I've never felt stronger. We're this close, and that is the case. And if I've been over optimistic in the past, given how long it's taken, 30 years since I entered the field, I get that, and I understand that. I might have been a little too optimistic at times. That doesn't mean that the high level of confidence I have that we are right there is not the case, because it is the case. We are right there.
Let me ask you a question. Is that okay, Steve?
Yes,
Okay, you ask a question, then I get one. Okay, go ahead.
All right. Us doing this show has a lot to do with 61 years ago with the Gemini, and then recently, the same date, the Artemis took off 61 years later, okay, on April Fool's Day. So I don't know if y'all see anything doing with Cosmos, Interstellar, NASA, any of that involvement with mining on the moon. and also uranium we're collecting wherever we can get it. Does anybody want to talk about that, or is that too
Again,
planet?
absent disclosure, we could there's so much more room for speculation. Look, there's no question we're going to mine the moon eventually. No question about that. There's no question we're going to have a base on the moon eventually, and there's no question we'll eventually go to Mars. So that's it, right? So ET, where's the ET connection there?
Well, the ET connection is with the people when we're all supposed to be DNA experiencers down here on this planet, and most people suggest that it could be due to quantum physics. Hologram, which we can go into a whole new dimension talking about that. But each person's experience and how they connect each other as to what disclosure is, if each one of us has our own ideas, how do we connect them all, and how is that going to pan out for governments, religions, cultures, educations? When, if anybody's read the book is certain books, you understand that there's things like going on right now to control cultures and religions and how we deal with them to go forward with AI and forward as a planet for those that want it and can afford it. Janet told me to watch Paradise. Janet, by the way, we're watching Paradise. It's a movie, but we've been watching it. We're watching it a second time, Janet. I told you we'd seen it. But this is about, yeah, underground Colorado. Have you seen it?
No spoilers. I hate spoilers. Don't spoil it. So I'm going to watch this movie.
All right.
Look, there are a plethora of exotic things that one could address that you
we have now,
and that's fine. But I can't go there. In other words, it's too much. What
about with Colonel Corso and fiber optics? At least with the 47 crash, will you at least give it that, or is that strictly high corporate?
Well, that's a pretty simple one, right? I mean,
okay.
You were describing some very complex stuff that people are looking into. Look, is it possible that? No, I think that it wouldn't surprise me at all if some technology transfer was attempted, right?
Yes.
Whether or not that accelerated, or because you could have had technology transfer, but it didn't do much. It didn't have much impact on our technological development, right? It might have been not helpful, but it might have been. That would not surprise me, and I'm comfortable with that. But like many things, absent the truth, it gets exaggerated. Right, and now you got people that claim that almost everything we've done stems from ET technology. So
well, we help.
I understand.
We on both sides.
Okay, can I say something?
Yeah. Okay. I had to get the space thing in, even though it was local Earth level. It's interstellar. It's really lower than that. But go ahead, Janet.
Well, to me, it's like I look at all the information. It's like the pyramid, and there's 4 levels. There's the government. There's the ancient aliens, astronaut thing. We have the prophecies and predictions, and we have Hollywood. And if you look at all 4 legs of this pyramid, it's all converging to this disclosure bit. So you mentioned at the beginning about our problems with the wars, and
yeah.
To me, it looks like a potential World War III if we don't stop it, right?
I agree. I see World
War 2 against 1.
Okay, well, let me
politics.
I listen to you. My turn. Okay. Okay. So there's a whole thing. I don't know where to go. I just want to say this thing right here. Bassett told Rolling Stones he believed Trump has already planned a disclosure speech on July 8th, the 79th anniversary of the original Roswell Press, and Long Trump has.
Now again, that is what journalists. I mean, I'm not
hearsay.
saying wrong. I'm saying that journalists, when they report something, it's very difficult to get it exactly right. What I told him is that the story that Trump might do this was out there. Right.
Oh.
Play. And that's important as an activist, because even if it's not true, the fact that the story is out there is very stimulating.
It's true.
how things are moving forward. But it
We
gets
are.
as if I'm telling him, "Oh yeah, that's what's going to happen." No,
Right.
I don't know for a fact it's going to happen,
No.
but I know the stories in play.
Let me ask you a quick question.
My turn.
I love it when
Sorry.
women fight over me like this.
Yeah,
Yes.
because on June 12th is Disclosure Day. And Disclosure Day has huge, um, feedback. There's dozens of people analyzing and what's that mean about. And there's also another one, a UAP thriller with David Grush, GRUS. I don't know.
Grush.
Well, yeah.
Rush, and then the X Files are good. So there's a lot. Hollywood is responding
Oh, yeah. Hollywood is
Yeah.
not
a
jumping in
lot.
with both feet.
Now
Absolutely.
there's another
Good. About
there's
time.
another thread. I want. Okay, there's an agenda to bring upon us on this planet revelation, the apocalypse, Armageddon, and so apparently the troops that are being sent over are being told that you're doing this to bring about the second coming of Christ.
Well, that's
With
Hegseth
that,
and the Christian nationalists over the DOD. And what can I say? That ain't my area.
right, right.
I'm not on board with that.
Worth looking
And I
at.
doubt it's the case.
What
It's
is all
worth
this Department of War?
it's worth looking at because if there is an agenda that they're trying to make it a self-fulfilling prophecy. If there's
Yeah.
an agenda that's been handed down through religion, and religion was brought upon this earth by the Anunnaki, who had an agenda to control the population. If you connect all the dots, you go, "Wow!"
Who
Because
says it stops, Janet?
if you read Revelation and the late great planet Earth and you really dissect it, which I've been studying this stuff since I was 16 years old. I'm not
Okay.
stupid. And I'm looking at what's being said, and then you bring it down through all the prophets, through all the ages. You have Nostradamus, you have John of Patmos, you have and you tie it. You just look for where are the hits, not the misses. I throw out the misses. Where are the hits? Where are we correlating? Where are we connecting? And if we are a society that is easily influenced, that we believe something, we make it happen. So at some level,
Mhm.
what we believe, we are achieving. And so I'm encouraging people to go on the positive timeline and listen to like the experiencers. And there's all these negative people. The aliens are evil. Throw all that out because if you keep incorporating that into your reality, we on some level are going to create it. And so we really have to be careful what we do, what we think, what we focus on, because on some level, humans, when they focus on something, they bring it about. So that's just my caution. We really have to start, like you were saying, we don't want to have this poor guy McKellen dead. Let's not go there, and let's look at the. Well, you did say it, but I'm paraphrasing,
Oh,
right?
once. We're just giving some views on this particular episode.
Uh
And the
huh.
most important thing from my perspective, the most important thing is the man safe and sound for his family. But from the
Right.
standpoint of the issue, my perspective is it's drawing a great deal of attention to the the government programs that
Right.
we're dealing with the ET issue, which has already been brought well into play, and that's getting attention, and attention from the media helps to drive the disclosure process forward. All right. So,
Yeah.
in terms of the other things that you mentioned, again, I try to keep it simple. Right. I'm not in the prophecy business, and all the exotic stuff is cool. I don't go there because it. I have a simple job, right? It's really
Uh,
easy. It's to get disclosure, and then these other things I may look forward to seeing them being addressed in a post disclosure era where much more information is available to those that are interested in these subjects, and we can have maybe a more effective and useful engagement of these things. Right now, with so much hidden, we're sort of dancing in the dark, and I'd rather not do that. So I keep it basic, and the other things intrigue me. I watch Ancient Aliens. A lot of those things are cool, but
right.
again, is
We have
it
a lot more than that.
yeah. Is it relevant to the moment? No, not too much. The fact that it does show that there might have been ancient ETs, I think that is significant, but it shows it in the sense that there is in a vast amount of effort that and coverage that they've done with Ancient Aliens. I don't know how many they've done. They've done, I don't know, 200 shows. The fact is, if you give it a relatively unbiased examination and you watch it without a particular bias, there is no question that there are substantial amounts of evidence points that point that evidence is there that point towards the fact that there's this extraterrestrial presence in ancient times. Not everything does, but there's just so much that does point in that direction that my feeling is definitely. And the fact that they're here now, which I am certain about, makes it much less of a stretch to believe that other entities, maybe of other sources, might have engaged us thousands of years ago. It would have been a totally different situation. So, but the ancient aliens, whoever they were, whatever they did,
they never left.
Well, that's
always here.
There's a faction that never left.
Never left. Many of them. Many of them.
Exposure. Maybe the ETs will confirm that.
Can we just mention about the Gigantopithecus, and giants, and the Yetis, and the Tibet, and all the world religions that started from all that?
That ain't my.
Hey, I saw Bigfoot, so I don't care. I know what I saw. I'm sticking with it. I'm sticking to it. That's my story. There's a lot of things sometimes we see we can't explain. So our brains try to find patterns, folks, and that's what I work in, as well as Cosmo, as Nero. So Janet and I had Cosmic Consciousness Conference in 2018. I'd love to have another one. Albuquerque's beautiful, but as we say with Steve Bassett, we don't have $1 million in our back pocket, so we're doing more of an allied command thing with everybody. And Steve is really our advocate there because he's been living in Washington some 30 years. Plus, as he said, he monitors and tries to read as much press, and so he's probably one of the best I guess you'd say, journalists. Now, I belong to Society of Professional Journalists, so you have to be an activist. You can't be a journalist. I'm a journalist.
You follow the information because you have to know stuff in order to be able to make cogent statements to people about what's going on. In general, the more of the larger picture you know, the better. In terms of what we'll call news facts, okay, not
legacy news
of exotic theories. I can't go there, but facts. So I do that. And as I've pointed out, on my print media archive alone, if you just go there, and I've got 400 or 500 articles that I have got to log in because I haven't been able to do that. I've been traveling, but I'm up to 17,000. And all these articles are legitimate professional press. They are triaged from many thousands more that simply are not substantive enough. They're not significant press. It's a little small stuff, whatever. And of the 17,000 articles, which is probably maybe 15% of the total number of articles have been written out this issue in mainstream media since 1947, less than 1% are demeaning or ridiculing out of 17,000. And then there's been nearly 9,000 articles since 2017. And again, less than 1% of them are ridiculed. They are substantive articles. This is a massive amount of coverage. And so I read and I post these articles. And so I have this very basic mainstream view of it. Right? This is mainstream media, right? And guess what? If you do read and cover that much journalism on the subject, you get a pretty good hefty picture of its reality. Okay? It's not hard to, if you know nothing about this issue and just started reading the news coverage since 17, you would come to the conclusion that there's an extraterrestrial presence. All right? And only the truth embargo and the maintenance of it, and to sustain that embargo, have prevented far more people from going, hey, this is true, and demanding that their members of Congress engage it. So that's another reason why we are so close to an announcement, and it's up to the president. We know that Laura Trump is on board. She has actually put out a statement, and one of the reasons why that coin turned up is because Laura Trump did put out a statement that she felt or thought that a speech had been written. Right? She said that. Is she right? She may be wrong, but she says that. That's what triggers that coin to be created, right? That cool little AI coin. We know that his son, John Donald Jr., brought on Elizondo and Coulthard for a 2-hour interview on his son's podcast, Triggered, which has got a lot of subscribers because his father promotes it. Okay,
Ah,
on his YouTube channel for 2 hours, just 5 days before he's going to be inaugurated.
we can't compete. We can't compete. Yeah.
So the family is so again. If you get a relatively broad view of what's really happening without getting into too much speculation, including the statements coming from Gabbard and Luna and Mace and Burchett and Vance, all right, it's not hard to conclude that it is on the table, right? It is on the table. That card is on the table. It can be played at any time.
It's got to be played with AI, though. There's too much money. There's too much money involved in this planet to not be included with the AI because what you're talking about, just an AI coin, I have those. They become NFTs, non-fungible tokens, that become great cryptocurrency, and the banks are now in 2026 are going to allow that, and you can read about it. It's going to be a thing. In art, okay, in art. How's that?
Well, look, you could make 100 of these things. This is an AI generated image, okay? And NFTs are not quite what they used to be. I get that. So anybody could have made that that's decent with some of the latest AI. It is one thing. You're going to see other things like that as the idea of Trump disclosing becomes more broader engaged on the internet.
We're going to mint these out, though.
I have no
ET
idea.
currency. Mm-hmm.
I have a question for Steve. What
Again.
happens once we have?
He's like, oh God, they're making their own money now. The aliens are here.
I'm just a
Go
simple
ahead.
caveman activist, TJ.
Okay.
That you're going off in areas I can't go to.
Yeah. Well, the U.S. Treasury has a nice mint. Go ahead, Janet.
What's going to happen when we have this? So, by the way, there were 3 prophets that said 2026 is the year that we meet ETs. 3 different ancient prophets. So,
Ooh.
I'll take
so
your
very
word for that.
interesting. Yeah.
Me too.
So, what do you think is going to happen? Are we going to get the tech? Are we going to get the cures for diseases? Are we just going to know about ETs? Are the ETs, once they're known, are they going to come out? They're going to sit down to lunch with us? I mean, what's going to happen?
I've already done that.
Well, yeah.
Look, I'm gonna give you the answer to that, and then I think I have to go, right? Because I think we're running about an hour.
Yeah.
Look, a simple, straightforward statement about how things are likely to go, which I try to do, right? Because I don't get too far from Occam's razor. I try to stay as close to that blade as I
You're
can.
doing pretty good there, Steve. I mean, you are. We'll
So-
take you down the rabbit holes.
The president will confirm it. The moment the president confirms it, now everything that's in play will advance, as well as other matters that are still unresolved. For instance, there's already legislation for getting information from the classified programs out and into the archives, meaning into the public domain. That's already happening on a limited basis. That's the initial legislation from 3 years ago. The other half of the bill has been submitted several times. If the president disclosed that the second half of the UAP Disclosure Act will very likely be passed very quickly and will have the full package. The full UAP Disclosure Act, absent probably some additional either witness or whistleblower protections, and of course, well, those things primarily, it is more than enough to begin the entire process of bringing everything ultimately out of the classified world under a controlled, responsible way, some delayed, some going forward automatically, so that there's a stream of information with high expectations of the rest, so that in a reasonable amount of time, I'm going to go 4 years maybe, it's all out and in the open, right? That will begin, all right?
Who's throttling it? Who's throttling the information?
The managers of the truth embargo, which
Okay.
includes individuals within the defense contractor world, the DoD, and the intelligence community, there are certain individuals that are devoting their time and effort to try to slow this down, and we've seen efforts to do that, and that's all we know. Okay, but
Well,
they're losing the battle. Right?
Does the world know about BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street as normal talk?
The world
in your world?
Not that the world doesn't. yeah, the world, I don't know what the world knows. I know there is a huge amount of stuff that is unresolved. And absent disclosure, any of that can be engaged. What I'm saying is disclosure begins a process in which the stuff starts coming out and we start getting very clear information about the ET presence, the programs that dealt with it, the engineering, and so forth. Now, what that reveals as it comes forward in the year or 2 or 3 after disclosure, right, will determine what we decide to do with it. And a lot of things that are probably in play will prove to be not valid, and they'll be dismissed. That'll save us a lot of time. And so that's a fairly straightforward thing. Now, what we will learn, there's a lot of possibilities there. I think basic tech reengineering and so forth, fine. But beyond that, hard to say. There's probably some things that'll shock us and some things that won't. But any speculation about this is nothing but speculation, and people tend to again exaggerate too much. So,
well, in the news has been about portals out of CERN, yeah, and you'll have to look it up. And folks in quantum physics, from well-known people, you know about the portals. And I've never seen it so out in the public's eye from intelligent people. I guess you'd say scientists, physics, people that work at CERN. Just look it up.
Portals.
Go ahead, Steve.
Right. Portals are being engaged. Whether or not that is going to be connected with the ET issue is not clear, but whatever. So now, but the president confirming it essentially eliminates the fundamental barrier to moving appropriately on this.
Okay.
And it makes it much more difficult for holdouts to take place, because the law does provide penalties if they don't obey that law. The president has the power to declassify anything. And so therefore, the only way you could continue to hide this would be to violate the law, virtually go, what do they call it?
Rogue.
Yeah, rogue. Basically go rogue and try to hide. I don't think that's going to happen. And so that is the basic thing that will happen. And that's a lot. Now, there is one other matter, which I mention all the time, that is not a stretch. I believe that once disclosure is underway, once the entire world has been notified by the statements from a number of heads of state, doesn't have to be all 200, right, that we're not alone, that open contact becomes appropriate, doable, and I think part of the ET agenda. And open contact is something else altogether. And so that is probably more important, this open contact, than what we learn about these legacy programs. Why? Because open contact will result in, I think, engagement from the ETs regarding the issues that they have dealt with, and the most important one is nuclear weapons. And so I believe open contact is going to be, amongst other things, a discussion of our nuclear weapons with non-human, extra-planetary entities of high technology. And that is a whole nother level of engagement on this issue, a level where we might actually make the decision we have to get rid of these things. All right. And so if that is the only outcome, well, it won't be the only outcome, but if that is one of the outcomes that comes from getting disclosure done and beginning the process of informing the world, and then open contact takes place, and we have our leaders in one way or another communicating with these entities, and they're pointing out the reason why the nukes have got to go.
Yeah.
And we get those nukes. Do you realize how that transforms this world? You take those nukes out of the picture, you get rid of them all, and you still keep your conventional weapons. The overall risk to any group of people, any country, dramatically comes down. All right. And once the nukes are gone, it's going to be much easier to start developing treaties regarding the conventional weapons. Because when the nukes are still there, trying to reduce the conventional weapons is a waste of time. right? What's the point? Look, let's get rid of all the tanks and this and that and the missiles and so forth, because if we're only going to have a war, we're going to use it with nukes. No. But once the nukes are gone, then the idea of starting to reduce the conventional weapons and reduce the massive $1 trillion expenditures on these things, which will benefit the hell out of virtually every country on the planet, is a much more realistic situation. So you could see in a relatively short amount of time a profound transformation of the planet from where we are right now, which is on the brink of nuclear war. And so I have said many times, and I'm going to close with this, that the fact that disclosure has been pushed forward and advanced, including actions by the ETs, to be happening now, at the same time, regardless of this Iran stuff, that we didn't need that to be where we are, that we're really up against the wall on the use of nuclear weapons is not an accident. It is connected, right?
Okay.
And
okay.
so
That
if I'm
might be a
right,
trigger for them for this. They want disclosure now. So the extraterrestrials, they went over the silos and they changed where the past. That we've had them. So this might be okay. We're going to start, and then Roswell happened after World War II, and the nukes went off. So that
we have more discoveries. Yeah.
Be the critical incident that happens for us to get disclosure from them.
The most important thing we know about extraterrestrials, right, as far as I'm concerned, is the fact that they turned off nuclear weapons, right. ICBMs. They turned off the missiles. They didn't shut down the weapons. The weapons were there. Still, they were still usable. But they turned the missiles off a number of times in the United States and also in the Soviet Union. That is the single most important thing we know. And it is so important that the resistance of the Department of Defense and what we'll call the managers of the truth embargo is maximized when you're talking about the nuclear weapon stuff. They absolutely don't want to go there. They will not talk to the witnesses. They've done everything to block them, I think, from getting on in front of a committee. But that's
okay. Because of national security, because that goes with nuclear. Those two words, absolutely. Right?
In other words, nothing demonstrates, from the standpoint of the national security people, the status that we have with respect to ETs better than the fact they can just turn off our nukes anytime they want to. And so that basically emasculates them. And so that's one reason, okay? And the second reason, of course, is that it gives an indication of how powerful they are, right? It also brings up the issue of the nukes and nuclear, getting rid of the nukes, disarmament, and they don't want to go there. So that's the area. So there's witnesses coming out here, there, and everywhere else, but they have really tried to prevent Robert Salas and the other men from coming forward and testifying on the nukes. But
really,
that's about to happen. And that testimony, no disrespect to David Grush or any of the other, I think, like 3, 8, 12 witnesses that have spoken in the 3 major hearings, no disrespect intended. When Salas and the other new witnesses testify, that is another matter altogether. It will really set things on fire because it completely legitimizes, it confirms under oath, penalty of perjury, that our nukes were turned off on numerous occasions by crafts hovering over the base that scared the security guards so badly that some of them curled up in a ball and were crying when the people came from the main base to find out what the hell had happened. And on many of those security guys who were younger at the time are still alive and could turn up at any time. So that's probably ball game. And I have done what I could, and others have certainly done a lot, even more than I, to ensure that these nuke shutdown witnesses will in fact testify before Congress. I believe that is coming up next, but clearly off to the side, given, well, it's so important a hearing. It would be better if it didn't take place while we're really maybe about to put ground troops into another country, and we have something like that happening in the Gulf of Hormuz. That doesn't mean you couldn't do it, right? It would be a distraction. It could be a positive thing. But ideally, we'll get this thing resolved quickly, and then we can get those gentlemen before a committee and end this embargo. Still, well before the end of the year, before the election. That's how I'm approaching it right now. Okay?
So the oil fits into the money side, but how does that? So we have nuclear and oil. Is what you're saying?
No, we have oil, and we have those are nuclear weapons. We have oil and we have nuclear. Those two things exist. They're part of our systems and so forth, regardless of whether there's any ETs here or not. But the oil situation is very, very problematic. And so if it gets to be severe, it does create a lot of stress that might make it a little harder to get this done, to get this truth embargo ended. But I would make the point that if any stress that comes from this war regarding oil availability, which could affect 50 countries or 100 countries, would actually benefit from disclosure, right? Because it dramatically shifts us to another way to look at the whole thing, all right? So that rather than suddenly everybody declaring war because they're not getting the oil they're supposed to get, they're thinking about the fact that, well, apparently we have extraordinary tech that's been sequestered. We have ET contact. And so there may be significant other alternatives to oil or augmentation to oil. So let's still go to war over it.
Isn't that part of why they didn't want disclosure? There's a faction of the planet does not want the alternatives of oil and for medical because it's about money.
Well, again, this is and this is in the realm of speculation, which I understand. The idea that the oil companies can block this from happening is, I don't think, legitimate. They would prefer it not happening, but the idea that they're somehow a major block, I don't think so. And as I said countless times, I assure you the oil companies will not go bankrupt, and in a short amount of time after disclosure, they will be richer than ever.
Well, I'd like to end this show with the fact that AI-ET symbiotes exist. And you better watch out for what's happening sideways, folks. So don't discount AI and cryptocurrency going sideways with the central bank. And you know who else, okay? So
again, I missed out on crypto. I was an idiot. I didn't look into blockchain until much later, and by that time, it was too friggin' late. And for that, I missed so many boats in my life that I could start my own fleet.
Well, it didn't stop. There's others out there, okay, that we're using, and not to mention Trump's has his now. You do know they started their own cryptocurrency. Okay, so I'm just trying to tell you, folks, don't discount.
Go south if
It goes sideways in politics. Just trust me, sideways, like crime.
I'm an old guy and I got to go to bed. So
okay, me too. I'm an old guy. All right, y'all want to do this? Do you want to come back, Steve, or is this it for you for a while? It's up to you.
Let me take a break, and also I got so many other podcasts to do. Let's revisit it maybe after the war has been resolved.
Oh my gosh! All right. After the war.
If there's another here, let's do something after that. All right.
All right. Well, let us know, when are you going to have an event for all of us to show up and hash out our events or our experiences?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. Look, I don't have one planned yet. I need money to be able to set up something. But look, Contact in the Desert is coming up. It's huge. There's a huge attendance this year. I'll be speaking, intensives, all kinds of stuff. Please, May 28th to June 1. And that is, of course, contactinthedesert.org, I think, or com, whatever.
.org.
And then you've got the Arkansas conference. What's the name of that?
The book company. The book company. They've been there forever. Dolores Cannon's group.
No. I'm talking about the one in Arkansas.
That's it.
Are you sure? What's the name of that? It's the
Ozark.
Thank you. The Ozark Conference is coming up. I'll be speaking at that. Also, the New Life, and that's April 10, 11. Okay.
Is it already? Oh my gosh! I miss that every year. I got to get my books out there, folks. That's April
10, 11.
For Ozark Mountain.
9, 10, 11 Ozark Mountain Conference.
UFO.
And then the New Life Expo is coming up. I believe it's April 2021. I'll be speaking up in New York at that. So there's plenty of events.
Good
coming.
for you.
Okay.
Well, you are a man about town, especially in the UFO community, right? And they do. A whole life, as far as I can remember, back in the day when I was showing, we couldn't put UFO. We had to have a whole event line of UFO books, and people, they didn't want them in the New Age books, right? I don't know if y'all remember back in the day, in the 70s, 80s, but I'm from back then. So I'm glad the UFOs have their own events but at the whole life, we have a lot of people there, folks, in Biomed.
This is the New Life Expo.
New Life.
.com, yes. New Life Expo.
New Life. Who started New Life? It's old too.
It's been around for 25 years. Mark Becker's operation. They do one in Florida. They do one in New York. And it's a cool event. It's right in the heart of New York. I'll be going up from D.C. I've got a panel and a substantial lecture. Fun deal. Kind of cool. And there are other events. I mean, there's a number of other events that I just learned about. So a lot of people are throwing out conferences right now because they understand what's coming, right? And they're anticipating the Spielberg movie and so forth. And so there's going to be a lot more conferences, and hopefully the interest will support them so that they can make a little bit of money. But then you're going to see some even bigger conferences. And right now the biggest one is Contact in the Desert. Check out the website. It's going to have 70 speakers. Jacques Vallée is going to be there. I could go on and on. So that's going to be the big one for me, and I look forward to maybe seeing you there if you can join us.
Okay. Thank you. That was a wonderful, I'm glad I mentioned events. I always do, folks. I'm a big promoter. Love and light, everybody. We'll see Janet next week. Janet and I do one Wednesday for a gentleman from the UK, all about his ET life. And Janet, tell him real quick what the name is now.
I don't have it set up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, we'll get out a pre-publish.
We're interviewing experiencers, so do contact us and we'll get you on the calendar.
There's several groups that are interviewing experiences for some sort of exposition. They are getting very close to happening their day. And with that, good night, ladies.
Good night.
Good night, folks.
Blessings. Namaste.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, I'm going to stay. Did you add the
Alien ET. Reverse engineering has been a part of my recollection while being human. I was born on Earth according to my legal birth certificate. Therefore, I understand that I was born human. However, after living life with visitors from a place in space or existence unknown to me, I compare myself to being a hybrid. Many people are awakened to this fact of being a star-born or whole star, or random hybrids with intelligence communication. Intelligence communication is a part of our cosmos consciousness. Using AI, ETAI reverse engineering, AERE for an acronym, we are learning how to communicate our field conditions on Earth. I identify as an ET or hybrid from another place in space. My thoughts feel a place in space above the Andromeda Galaxy and the Milky Way Galaxy. Personally, I am not told if others are like me or think like me or understand like me on planet Earth. There is a reason we probably do not communicate our spiritual thoughts to others. It is our own reality we protect. We want to be a part of the reality in conscious reality and be in the human community. We adjust to knowing we have a way of coming and going when we are in hypnagogic states of being and in lucid dreaming. We can all become more alive and in a healthier environment that allows for all of us to share our deeper nature in evolution. Are we alone in the universe or universes? Most of those humans whom I have met do not share their personal inner beliefs or religion. Humans are now programmed in 2024 to not share their personal religious or political beliefs in public arenas or platforms. We share education, and we now have allowed the communication devices and the evolution of technological advancements to take us into a new timeline. The Mandela effect is now spoken about with the change of various timelines since 2008. We reaffirmed this in the hindsight 2020, meaning the year 2020 was a global reset, and many of us who are considered star people, as in reference to the Braden Francis Steiger book,